I don't believe what I just saw.
This is one of the great moments in the history of baseball.
I believe in miracles. Yes!
Is this the dagger?
It's June 4th, sports fans, and on this day in 1917, the first ever Pulitzer Prizes were handed out at Columbia University. Now, I don't want to jinx it, but I'm pretty confident that today's episode will have the four of us making a trip to NYC for next year's ceremonies. Don't believe me? Check out this list of hard-hitting journalistic topics.
Do it, Mike.
The
Go.
best-behaved person in France is a teenager from Sweden. An awkward press conference, even by NBA standards. The Pirates trade a player as soon as they figure out he's pretty good. A Grand Slam final that took about as long as a sneeze. The big unit reaches a big unit of measurement. The NFL flakes out and heads to the Pacific Northwest. American golfers take their first international ride. And Don Cherry's Eurotrash nightmare comes true in Detroit. All these front page headlines plus plenty more back page worthy stuff with a bunch of little details hidden in the fine print in this hard hitting episode of all the news that's fit to discuss on this edition of This Day in Sports.
Boom. Let's get a Pulitzer. Why not?
Yeah,
Why not?
Is that where they are? They're in New York. They get handed
Yeah,
out.
Yes.
that's right. That is correct, Matt.
Okay. Facts. Full of facts today.
But
Oh,
that's
yeah.
New York. And I'll tell you what New York doesn't have. It doesn't have a cabin. Cabinforlife.ca. You got to head there, check it out, see all the things that Cabin provides. It is beyond bottles in the background. It is beyond just a haircut. It's beyond a shave. It's everything you need. It is a gentleman's supply store, depot, headquarters.
All of those things.
What other words am I looking for? Like
Destination.
destination.
I love destination.
Yeah.
It's an experience.
It is.
An experience. Thank you, Frank. Cabin is an experience because here is the place you get a cut, you get a shave, you get a ton of compliments. Make sure you check out Cabin. And Cabin is our main sponsor, and they will be there on our live shows in Bob Cajun this coming June. And they are going to have swag available there. There's even be giveaways. So you got to get your tickets, get to the show in Bob Cajun if you get a chance, June 14, 15, 16 this year. And if it's next year, it was last year. So when you listen to this, it's last year. But it is this year.
June 14th, 15th, 16th.
Yeah.
There's some kind of holiday around there, isn't there?
Father's Day.
That's great because we're going to have swag there, and you can pick something up for your...
Matt, brilliant. For your dad.
Yep.
Or someone you know who's a dad.
The tickets to the show would be a great Father's Day gift, too.
Mike,
That's
you're
true,
absolutely
man.
right. Frank, what's another example?
You can actually go fishing while you're there and then catch a show.
See, you can do it all.
Frank is
that's
all
what
about
I'm
the
gonna do.
fishing.
Yeah,
Let me just say what Frank just said.
Yep.
You can go fishing, then catch a show. That is how well Frank can turn a phrase.
That's a big day.
Amazing job, Frank. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Come and check out that show on Bob Cajun. Now, June 4th, let's get down to business. Matt, what do you got?
Well, I just want to say that as soon as I heard that the best behaved person in France is a teenager for Sweden, I got a little nervous for you, Sandy, because as we established last episode, you are teased by European teenagers.
I am often. It's weird. They follow me around. They tease me.
Since that episode, they've just come after you hard.
I know. It's mostly about what I'm wearing. They're always on about my apparel because I don't have a lot of fashion sense, and they burn me on it
fashion
constantly.
forward
They
enough.
go after me all the time. But Eurotrash got a little bit of a teaser as well today, and Eurotrash is going to get. We're going to
Now,
revenge.
to be clear, Eurotrash is the term I think Don Cherry would use.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
appreciate
just to be
that.
clear.
I'm just
That's not
egging.
us.
I'm just egging on these teenagers who make fun of me.
Yeah, fair enough. They
People
deserve
are so confused out
They
there
deserve
right
it.
now.
Yeah, well, let's
But
just get
God
this-
bless.
1998, June 4th. Joe Juno scored at 6:24 of overtime to give Washington a 3-2 win over Buffalo in Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals and advance the Capitals to the Stanley Cup Finals for the first time in their history. Peter Bondra's power play goal with 6 minutes remaining tied the game, and then Juno scored on a rebound off of a Brian Bellows shot for the game winner. There's some names that come back from the past, eh? Brian Bellows,
Yeah.
Peter Bondra, Joe Juno.
Brian Bellows, St. Catharines native.
Really?
Yeah.
I believe Joe Juno is into aeronomics.
He was an engineer.
Yeah, he was.
Engineer, right?
He was like
aerodynamics.
He was.
yeah.
They always used to say like he was a rocket scientist, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Did not know that.
Well, that's interesting because already this is alluding to this draft we're going to have later on, which is just these great names when you hear them. And we're talking about 90s goalies later on, but there's going to be some other allusion to that. But just hearing those names, you go through, it's like going through old hockey cards, baseball cards, whatever, hearing the names you haven't heard in a long time. And that's even way back when we had Steve Gardner on the show. We talked about John Jaha. Well, there's a name I haven't heard in a long time. And then you confused him with John Jaso. But that's okay. Because when you hear these names, they just bring it all back.
Bondra was a sniper. Remember that
Great player.
shot? Oh, wow.
Killer player.
1987, June 4th, in one of the most awkward press conferences in NBA history, Larry Bird and Isaiah Thomas shared a table filled with microphones before the assembled media before an NBA Finals game between LA and Boston. It was an attempt to, quote, set the record straight after Detroit's Dennis Rodman claimed that Bird was only being lionized for his play because he was white, and that he'd just be another player if he were black, right after the Pistons were beaten by the Celtics. And Thomas was quoted as saying he agreed with Rodman. Both men appeared uncomfortable, especially Bird, who was trying to be gracious. And, Bird really did Thomas a favor to do that press conference. And Thomas just kept, it's so awkward if you watch it. He keeps digging himself a deeper grave. He claims at one point people don't know the real definition of racist. And he doesn't really admit to doing any wrongdoing. And then they bring him on again on the NBC broadcast of a finals game to try to explain himself. And he still kind of doesn't do it right. Like, it's terribly awkward. And Bird really has no reason to do it other than trying to be a good guy and
help out.
And just get it over with, right? Like, he wasn't interested in, and Isaiah still didn't. I love the Pistons and I love Isaiah, but it's very awkward to watch. Ooh. Yeah, it was touchy.
This next one, June 4th, 1913. This is very interesting. 40-year-old English suffragette and activist Emily Davison was trampled and mortally wounded when she ran onto the track during the running of the Derby at Epsom Downs in Surrey in protest. She was a passionate advocate for women's rights and socialism who had been arrested many times previously while campaigning for those causes. Because she did not share with anyone what her plan was when she ran onto the track, there are many theories as to why she did so. She was struck by a racehorse named Amner, who was owned by King George V. She died from injuries 4 days later. This is 1913.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, if I told you that story and left some of the detail out, and you said it to somebody now and said, okay, tell me when you think that happened. No one's getting 19. No one's going back. It'll be the 60s. It'll be the 70s.
No, it sounds so radical, right?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's such a great story. Yep. A sad story, but such a great story because it's fascinating that this was happening in 1913.
That would be just terrifying, running on during a horse race.
Yeah.
Oh. Imagine trying to,
That's like almost scarier than running out into like a car race, like just because.
Yeah.
Which has happened too. I think I've seen a
protesters?
F1 protest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sitting on the track.
Sitting.
There was some of those. That's also the climate. Protesters
right.
Sitting on the track.
Right. Jeez.
June 4th, 1927.
Yeah, this was getting a little bit heavy.
Sorry, guys.
Pull us back out, Matt.
Well, I'm going to fast forward to 1927.
Sure.
Is that far?
That's fast forward, yeah.
Okay. The first first ever Ryder Cup was held in Worcester, Massachusetts.
Worcester.
Oh, wait. It's in Massachusetts, so it's probably Worcester.
I think Mike does the best.
Worcester.
Okay, thank you. Worcester.
Yeah.
Worcester, Massachusetts. Thanks, Mike. A match play tournament. It pitted the best American golfers against the best from Great Britain. The inaugural event was won by the U.S., led by team captain Walter Hagen, who defeated Great Britain by a score of 9.5 to 2.5. The Ryder Cup eventually expanded from just being the U.S. versus Great Britain by including all of Europe in the competition. Sorry about that. Starting in 1979.
No one learned any facts from that.
Wait.
That was like, Frank, can we do a redo?
So it was just the U.S. and Great Britain until 1979. They said, hey, let's not make it Great Britain. Let's make it all of Europe. But I guess not all of North America.
No.
The Ryder Cup, it's played in odd number years between 12-member teams from the United States and Europe.
I will just say that's great that you did that read because now everyone knows this is not AI.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. This is
real.
This is real.
It's a human being behind these facts.
Right. Now, watch, I'll flub the hell out of this one anyway.
Yeah, man.
June 4th, 1982. In one of the greatest examples of sportsmanship in sports history, 17-year-old Mats Wilander gave back the match-winning point in the semifinals of the French Open. Winning 6-5 in the fourth set, and at match point, Wielander stood shaking his head at the baseline when his opponent, Luis Clerc's shot, was called long. The crowd started cheering his victory, but he went up and told the chair umpire that the shot was actually in and the point should be replayed. Now, he won the match fair and square on the next point, and after the match, Wielander told the media that he said to the umpire, "I can't win like this. His ball was good."
Yeah.
Wielander won the final of the tournament two days later, just 1 year after winning the French Open boys title, and it was his first ever appearance in that tournament.
Wow.
That's great. You love a good story. Of
I love that
sportsmanship.
stuff.
I would have never done that.
No.
Oh, Frank.
I don't. I mean, I don't know that I would either.
No,
I wouldn't.
If you're trying to win a semifinal, like,
You just take the point.
yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I approve of it, but that's a lot. You've played your whole life to get to that point.
Yeah, but
That's
don't you?
sportsmanship. That's good
Yeah.
sportsmanship.
Yeah, you got to believe in karma. You got to believe, like,
Yeah.
if I call this, then they'll call that. If I
Yeah.
don't call it right.
Yeah. No, you love to see that. And
Well, that doesn't. But you're imagining that he didn't get any calls go against him in that game. Maybe he did.
Yeah.
He
Like,
may
you know
have.
what I mean? It's not.
Yeah.
He's not necessarily on the owing side of that ledger.
yeah.
No, I still think that
Right call.
a lot of people would do this. Yeah, I hope.
Hey, actually, let's throw it out to
Would
our
you do
viewers.
this?
Yeah.
Go in the
On
comments.
Instagram. We're going to put this one on Instagram.
Once you finish liking, subscribing, comment. We need some
Right.
comments on Instagram. Would you do this? Would you do this level of sportsmanship,
Yeah.
or would you just take the point?
And to be clear, Mike, I don't think your position is like you're not being deceitful. You're just like, it was called a certain way. I'm not going to interfere with the call. That's not my job, right? I'm just here to play hard.
That's right.
No.
Yeah. June 4th, 1953. Let's move it on. After winning 7 consecutive National League home run titles in his first 7 MLB seasons in Pittsburgh, the Pirates traded outfielder Ralph Kiner to the Cubs, along with Joe Gargiola, in exchange for 6 players and $150,000 in cash. Kiner was just 30 years old at the time and hit 28 more home runs in Chicago after the trade to finish with 35 that season, though he did not win the home run title that year for the first time in his career.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So he has the record for the most consecutive home run titles in a league by anybody.
yeah.
Like no one. You could give people
First
20 guesses.
7 seasons.
But yeah, from
Yeah.
his rookie year on, he
Yeah.
won the home run title 7 years in a row
On bad teams.
on bad teams.
So he's often ignored. I agree with that.
Yeah, like no one gets Ralph Kiner.
No.
Who won the most consecutive home run titles? You'd guess. I don't even know if most people know who Ralph Kiner is.
I use him all the time on Immaculate Grid just because I feel like
Yeah.
no one's going to get him.
Yeah.
I really do feel like that.
A lot of people know him as a broadcaster more than
yeah.
a player.
Yeah. Matt.
2009. Randy Johnson won the 300th game of his MLB career, becoming the 24th and possibly last pitcher to reach that milestone. Johnson threw 6 innings versus Washington that day, allowing 1 unearned run while striking out just 2 batters, but the Giants defeated the Nats 5-1 that day for the milestone win. Johnson retired at the end of that season with 303 career victories. I think we've talked about this before on the podcast, but just no one's going to get there again, we don't think, right?
300 wins?
Justin Verlander has 259.
I don't even think he's going to get there.
So he is
No.
41
No
years
way.
old. I
No
think.
way. There's no way.
Well, yeah. I mean, it doesn't
41
seem
wins?
likely.
Like, I
So
don't think
yeah,
so.
no, and he's not throwing 9-inning games anymore. Like you're not in longer to get a decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's surprises here and there, like a guy like Clemens. He kept on going.
Yeah,
but
Clemens did.
I don't think so.
I don't think Max Scherzer is next. Max Scherzer has 214. He's not getting anywhere
no.
near that anymore. Kershaw has 210.
Nope.
Nope.
Won't be healthy
Like
enough.
all those guys have, and that's it. Like I don't think there's anybody else over, like even close that's still playing or currently playing. You know what I mean? And those are like the 3 most iconic pitchers of the last 20 years, probably. Those 3 guys I just named.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think
I mean,
anybody.
Verlander, I guess, could have a shot if he plays like
He could.
3 more years.
Again, these are great things that people put on comments
Yeah.
on Instagram or whatever you want to do. Throw out a comment. Do you think Verlander has a shot? Do you think there's anybody that's coming up right now that you think, hey, they just hit 100. Can they get to 300?
Yeah, it's maybe. Okay, 1984, with the first pick of the MLB draft, the New York Mets selected Harrisburg, Pennsylvania high school outfielder Sean Abner. Abner never played a game in the major leagues for the Mets. He was traded to San Diego in 1986 while still in the minors. He played less than 400 career games in the majors and hit .227 with just 11 home runs in his whole career. Players taken later in that year's draft: Mark McGuire, Greg Maddux, Tom Glavine, Al Leiter, Ken Caminiti, and John Jaha.
John Jaha, there
Friend
he
of the
is.
show.
Friend of the show, John Jaha. John Jaha, if you're out there, we desperately want you to be on This Day in Sports. We want
Set
you on
the
the
record
show.
straight.
Set the record straight. You are not John Jasso. John Jasso?
John Jaso.
John
John
Jaso.
Jaso.
That's
John
right.
Jaso. Saying it weirdly.
You're not John Jasso either.
John Jasso, you're not. You are John Jaha. We want you on the show. I know you're out there. I know you're in Oregon. We know that much.
Yeah, we'll find you.
We'll drive to Oregon to put you on the show, or you can zoom in for half an hour.
We'll take Jaso too, right?
We'll take Jaso. We'll take Jaha.
He probably doesn't. John Jaso doesn't have internet, I don't think.
Yeah, out in
He
his
lives
yacht.
on a boat. Yeah.
He doesn't. 1964, June 4th, 1964, Dodgers pitcher Sandy Koufax threw the third no-hitter of his career, shutting out the Phillies with 12 strikeouts while allowing just one walk in a 3-0 LA win in Philadelphia. Koufax also went 1 for 3 in the game, giving him more hits than the entire Phillies team. Fuck you. The only base runner he allowed was a full count walk to Dick Allen in the 4th inning. Allen was then thrown out attempting to steal second base. Amazing.
Wow.
Sandy, do you want to speak directly to the Philly fans?
Oh,
after
I
that?
love it. Listen, last episode I took Mike Schmidt. Our honeymoon is over, you thought. But then you look at me and you think, what's this guy wearing? This is a Bobby Clark Flin Flon Bombers jersey. Because Philly, I may not love you, but I sure love Bobby Clark. Flin Flon Bros.
Healing. I feel some healing happening.
There's going to be. There's going to be.
Oh, yeah.
June 4th, 1974, the NFL announced it was granting an expansion franchise to the Seattle-based ownership group for a team that would be soon named the Seahawks. A few months later, the NFL also awarded an expansion franchise to the city of Tampa. Both teams began play in the 1976 season. Since then, the Bucs have won 2 Super Bowls and the Seahawks 1. Tampa has won 9 division titles and Seattle has won 11.
So I guess so far the Bucs are winning.
Yeah.
2 Super Bowls to 1. I mean, ultimately that's
Yep.
that's what it's about, right?
But if you want to talk about uniforms, the Bucs had those pretty. Did you like those original uniforms? No.
I like that. I like the Buccaneers symbol. They
but not the
half a hat and all that kind of look.
Not the orange necessarily.
Not
though.
necessarily the colors.
The peach. Yeah,
but the logo was cool.
How do you feel about the neon of Seattle?
The same way.
Okay.
Both can go. As far
Weirdly
as I'm
modern,
concerned. Yeah.
too modern or something.
It looks like something's wrong with your TV. 1988, Steffi Graf defeated 17-year-old Natalia Zvereva of the Soviet Union 6-love in the finals to win her second consecutive French Open. The entire match lasted 32 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the one you were alluding to in the opening.
Yeah.
Long sneeze.
32 minutes. Imagine you bought tickets. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I went on StubHub and overpaid, but we'll go to watch the final. You sit down, first beverage.
Tell you what,
Game
I'm
over.
going to head up, grab us some beers.
Yeah.
I'll come back down, and you'll go next.
Yeah.
Come back down, it's over.
I might miss a little bit of the
Oh,
action,
my
but
God.
I'll be back.
Terrible.
32 minutes. Wow. Incredible.
Nuts. All right. This to me?
Yeah.
Let's do it. June 4th, 2008, Red Wings captain Nicholas Lindstrom became the first European-born player ever to skate to center ice and receive the cup as captain of the Stanley Cup-winning Detroit Red Wings. They had just defeated Pittsburgh 3-2 in Game 6 of the finals to clinch the 11th championship in team history. That night, 46-year-old Wings defenseman Chris Chelios also became the oldest player to win the Stanley Cup. Yep, first European-born captain. And then oldest player.
Oldest
all
dude,
in the game.
same game. Yeah.
Yep.
1963, 2 legendary goalies, this is the NHL, they were traded for one another today as the Rangers' Gump Worsley and a few other players were traded to Montreal in exchange for Jacques Plante and 2 others. Plante played just 2 seasons in New York before he retired for the first time. Worsley won 4 of the next 5 Stanley Cups with the Canadiens.
Gumper.
So, worked
The
out
Gumper.
well.
Yeah, really
Yep.
did.
Gump Worsley not in the Hall of Fame, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Huh.
That
know.
doesn't seem right.
It seems weird. I certainly as a colloquial kind of
Yeah.
cult figure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was surprised
And if you
because
look,
I think when I started writing this, I said 2 Hall of Fame goalies were
Oh.
traded for one another, and then I went, I should really check that.
Yeah.
And I don't think
It's
I
weird.
don't
You think,
unless I
like-
made a mistake. I
I
don't
think
think
like
he
some
is.
sort of veterans committee or something
Yeah.
would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Frank, do you want to double check that, see if Gump Worsley's in the Hall of Fame?
Frank's going to
Yeah.
fact check.
I feel like he's, I'm picturing him right now, and I think I've got his picture in my head. He looks like he couldn't
Oh, yeah.
play
He
in
is
any
in the
other-
Hall of Fame.
He is?
Okay.
Yeah, inducted in 1980.
Holy smokes,
Okay,
that was
yeah.
scary.
False alarm.
That was
False
scary.
alarm. I
Okay.
could have written
Didn't seem
I
right.
thought we were going to
Yeah.
have another riot.
I
Oh
know,
my
I know,
God.
because
Yeah,
he's
thank
like
you.
one of the greatest all time. But what I was
close.
gonna say is he really looks of that era.
Yeah.
He's a guy who kind of has a look to him that.
Yeah.
We have a fan of the show that is going to shit himself sideways. Dave Pierce. He was a huge Habs fan. He's going to be all over this and he was already breaking his fingers to type in the comments, Gumper's a Hall of Famer. So thank God we walked it
my
back.
error
He
was
did
we
have
walked it back.
corrected,
More
yeah.
losses than wins, though.
Yeah.
352 versus 335 wins.
Frank, why do you have to hate Gumper?
why are you so bad? It's
I
bad
think
enough.
it's- I think
It's
it's
bad enough.
really-
I badmouthed him already.
Yeah, I think it's his name that really carried him.
Gumper.
It is.
Mike, what do you got?
1989 at Fenway Park, the Blue Jays were behind the Red Sox 10-0 in the 7th inning, but rallied back to defeat Boston 13-11 in 12 innings. Toronto scored 2 runs in the 7th, 4 in the 8th, and 5 in the 9th, including Ernie Witt hitting a grand slam off of Lee Smith to take an 11-10 lead, but then Tom Henke blew the save in the bottom of the 9th, and the game went to extra innings. In the 12th inning, outfielder Junior Felix hit a 2-run homer to deep right center field off of former Blue Jay Dennis Lamp to put them ahead for good. Reliever Dwayne Ward kept Boston off the board in the 10th, 11th, and 12th inning to get the win.
That's a lot of innings for Dwayne Ward.
Relievers that go 3 innings. That don't happen
Jeez.
anymore. I know. A lot of great old names there. I love that Lee Smith was closing for the Red Sox. I kind
Yeah.
of forgot he was there.
Yeah,
And then Henke blows the save for Toronto.
fantastic.
Pretty good. Remember
Yeah.
when the Jays used to score a lot of runs?
I do. Remember they had 2 closers?
Yeah.
This is
But we digress.
This is Mike. I tried to apologize because then now I realized the Lindstrom thing was Don Cherry's Euro trash nightmare comes to life.
Yeah.
That was it. I will do one more,
Yeah.
and then we'll go to some quick
Why not?
hits. This is John Havlicek, and the Celtics thought they had won Game 5 of the
What year is it?
What year? Come on,
Oh,
Sam,
sorry,
you know how
June
this
4th,
works.
1976. I was gonna, if I got right to the end, I might have wrapped it up, realizing halfway through that I fucked up, and then come back with, and that all happened on June 4th.
It's all right. At least you didn't say
1976.
somebody wasn't in the Hall of Fame. That was me.
That's okay. June 4th, 1976, John Havlicek and the Celtics thought they had won Game 5 of the NBA Finals versus Phoenix when he hit a running bank shot as time expired in the third overtime period. Third overtime period, friends. And his teammates were in the locker room celebrating for 10 minutes before they were summoned back to the floor of the Boston Garden because the referees had determined that there was 1 second remaining in the game. And in 76, I don't know how you did it because it was so different with the clock. Suns head coach Paul Westphal then had his team call an illegal timeout, sacrificing a technical foul, but then being allowed to inbound the ball from midcourt. That meant that Celtics guard JoJo White, who had already changed out of his uniform and untaped his ankles after playing all 60 minutes, had to hit a free throw after having cooled down for 15 minutes. He swished it, making Gar Hurd's last-second attempt at the buzzer meaningless. The eventual win gave the Celtics a 3-2 win in the series, which they clinched 2 nights later in Phoenix.
That's tough. That foul shot.
Wow.
Like you've totally.
You're like
Like
you're
you're in street
basically
clothes.
partying.
Hey, come on
Yeah,
back out.
It's all over.
Yeah.
All of the energy of the game is gone,
yeah.
and then you're coming back out.
Yeah.
I would love it if he was barefoot.
I
I untaped my ankles. I'm not even putting the shoes back on.
I'm
Let's
going to
just
do it
it.
in my shower shoes.
Let's just do this.
Yep.
Matty.
Quick hits, I think.
Quick hits. In 1940, the first night baseball games ever played in both Pittsburgh and St. Louis happened tonight. The Dodgers defeated the Cardinals 10-1 at Sportsman's Park in a game that began an hour after the Pirates crushed the Braves 14-2 at Forbes Field in Pittsburgh. The first MLB night game ever was played 5 years earlier in Cincinnati. So this was just the first night games in both Pittsburgh and St. Louis.
1984, at Wing Neck Golf Club in Mamaroneck, New York, the U.S. Open was played without Arnold Palmer for the first time in 32 years. Palmer failed to qualify for that year's U.S. Open for the first time since he turned pro. He only appeared in one more in his career, and that was 10 years later when he was given a USGA exemption to play in his home state of Pennsylvania.
Quick hits! In 1987, Danny Harris defeated Edwin Moses in the 400-meter hurdle event in Madrid, Spain, ending the longest win streak in track and field. Moses had not lost a race in nearly a decade. winning 122 consecutive races since August 1977. That is crazy.
Yes.
Quick hit, 1967. A misplayed fly ball in the fifth inning ended St. Louis Cardinals outfielder Curt Flood's MLB record streak of 568 consecutive total chances without an error. His streak of error-free play lasted 226 games. It began in September 1965, and he did not make an error in center field during the entire 1966 season. Flood won 7 consecutive Gold Glove awards between 1963 and 1969, and I made it through without making an error.
You did.
Nicely done.
Very well done.
Very well done. Whew.
I am the
Yep.
Curt Flood of
You
this.
did it.
That's right.
You did it.
On the other hand, 1990, Penn State is admitted as a new member of the Big Ten Conference, making them the 11th team in the conference and the first new addition since Michigan State in 1949. Today, the Big Ten has 14 schools, and the Midwest-based conference includes other additions like Maryland, Rutgers, and Nebraska, which is basically so this is the beginning of conference play, meaning absolutely
nothing.
nothing.
It's so dumb.
Regional rivalry. It's all just money,
It's so dumb.
and they're gonna ruin it themselves. Like they're gonna
absolutely.
destroy themselves.
I think almost everyone agrees with
Yeah, yeah, it's inevitable.
June 4th, 2011. Quick hit! In Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Finals, Vancouver's Alex Burrows became the hero when he scored the game-winning goal just 11 seconds in overtime to give the Canucks a 3-2 win over Boston. To take a 2-0 series lead. Earlier in the game, 43-year-old Mark Recchi scored for the Bruins, making him the oldest player in NHL history to score in a finals game.
Wow.
One more round of quick hits.
Yeah.
You got it in ya? Quick hit, 2014. The Kings and Rangers played Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals at the Staples Center in L.A. Early in overtime, with the game tied at 2, Dan Girardi turned the puck over, and a few seconds later, Justin Williams scored to give the Kings the win. It was Williams' 8th goal of the postseason, and L.A. won every game he scored in.
Wow. 2016, Serena Williams' attempt to tie Steffi Graf's open-era record of 22 Grand Slam singles titles was thwarted when she was upset 7-5, 6-4 in the final of the French Open by Spain's Garbine Muguruza. It was Muguruza's first Grand Slam title. She lost only one set in the entire tournament that year, and it was in her first-round match.
Excellent pronunciation.
It's not easy.
I was really hoping Sandy was going to cold read that one.
Oh.
Jumping into it, not realizing
Matt,
where he was headed.
Can I really tell you that I've scanned these quick hits?
Yeah.
And every second one is an impossible name to say.
Yeah,
Mike
I know.
is challenging us with landmines.
It's a minefield.
It's
We're
a
dancing
minefield
through it.
out here. I'm dancing through it. I have to go quick.
Perverse pleasure in.
Finally, quick hit, June 4th, 2017, a day after shooting a second-round 77 to turn a 5-stroke lead into a 4-stroke deficit entering the final round, Jason Duffner sank a 32-foot par putt on the final hole to win the Memorial in Dublin, Ohio by 3 shots. It was his 5th PGA Tour win, and he became just the second Ohio native to win the tournament besides Jack Nicklaus, who designed it and won it himself. Duffner became the first golfer since Nick Faldo at the 1989 Masters to shoot a 77 on the 3rd day of a PGA event and still win it.
Yeah.
Golf.
You know what I'm saying?
Hey, Matt, any birthdays out there?
Nope.
No.
All right, well, we'll go to our
Just deaths.
draft.
Wait,
All death. Turn the lights out.
This just in, some birthdays.
Yeah.
Jump out from behind the couch because in 1966, surprise, former NHL tough guy turned broadcaster Nick Kyprios was born in Toronto, Ontario. Happy birthday, Nick.
Yeah.
1937, longtime pro wrestler and WWE ringside commentator Gorilla Monsoon, born in Rochester, New York. I never knew what a solar plexus was until Gorilla Monsoon. There's a shot to the solar plexus.
Do you remember Gorilla Monsoon's bar on Queen?
Yeah.
By near the horseshoe.
Yeah.
Oh man, legendary.
What was it called?
Gorilla
Gorilla
Monsoon's.
Monsoon. It was named after him. Yeah.
Dog.
Wow.
All right. Happy birthday in 1932. Get up behind that couch and say hello to Boston Red Sox manager and 1986 World Series manager John McNamara in Sacramento, California. It wasn't easy for old Mac, but he was born that day.
And he and Clemens still have that feud going, right?
Yeah.
Where like they disagree on what happened in Game 6 against the Mets.
They do. They do.
McNamara claims Clemens wanted out of the game. Like Clemens came into the dugout and said, "That's it, I'm done." I think it was after
Taking
8.
out,
Yeah.
And Clemens says, "I've never said that. I would never say that. I never asked out of the game."
I believe Roger.
And they,
Yeah. I don't know, but you got to think a competitor doesn't want to be taken out, right?
yeah.
But we don't know.
We don't know. Anyway, it's
well, I mean, ultimately, John McNamara got out of that argument by dying.
Oh,
I did a death on a birthday.
Hey,
All right.
hey, wait a minute.
do another birthday.
Who picked up the cake? Because in 1974, number 1 overall pick in the 1995 MLB draft, Darren Erstad was born in Jamestown, North Dakota.
2-sport athlete.
Nice.
Oh, what was the other one?
He won a national championship at Nebraska. He was the punter. On the
Love a
Nebraska-
good punter.
You love a good kicker.
He loves a
Yeah.
kicker.
And injury is the only thing that held him back. He was a great player.
He was a terrific player. Okay, 1948 Canadian golfing legend, 1968 LPGA champion,
Thank you.
and 8-time LPGA tournament winner Sandra Post, born in Oakville, Ontario.
Boom. 1963 NBA All-Star power forward Xavier McDaniel in Columbia, South Carolina. I loved
The X-Man.
him back in the day with those Sonics. So good.
Cameo appearance in the film Singles.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. You want to do one more round of birthdays or are we moving on?
All right, one more.
Okay.
1993 All-Star pitcher for the Phillies, Aaron Nola, was born in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
1974 Hall of Famer, 7-time WNBA All-Star and 2-time WNBA champion with Detroit, Katie Smith, born in Lancaster, Ontario. Or Lancaster, Ohio, not Ontario.
That's okay. Happy birthday, June 4th, 1993. Calder Trophy winner, NHL All-Star forward, Jonathan Huberdeau in Saint Jerome, Quebec. And I'll tell you, sadly, we have to turn the lights down, guys, because there's one death we do want to make sure we get to. There's a lot of great.
Sandy, was that you who wrote the note that we should mention all 3 of these?
Oh, maybe. Yeah, I did. Feels like we should mention all 3.
Okay,
of these.
so
Thanks,
you
Mike.
do either one.
Yeah,
you do
yeah.
one.
I think I did write that.
Sure.
Yeah, right. That's right. Good point. We should. Absolutely, we should. These are all legends. Unfortunately, in 2014, we lost longtime MLB player, manager, coach Don Zimmer at the age of 83. An amazing, amazing character.
Great character, yeah. Made up.
Tops.
Yeah.
I'll go next, I suppose. In 2018, longtime 49ers wide receiver, The Catch, Dwight Clark, at age 61 of ALS.
Yeah, that was.
Sorry, Mike, that's a tough
No,
one.
no. That's a great, that's an all-time, that made me a 49ers fan, that catch.
Sure.
And in 2010, legendary NCAA basketball head coach with UCLA, John Wooden, at 99.
Yeah, 99 years young.
Yeah, that's right. He looked fantastic the whole time, too.
Unreal. All 3 legends, all on June 4th. Now, circling back, we kind of talked about these great names, right? We're talking about these great names in hockey. And we have been challenged to put together a list of what we feel are great names of 90s NHL goalies.
Yes.
A little obscure,
Yeah.
but we always say, hey, challenge us, come on the show,
That's
judge
right.
us. And our judge is coming up shortly, challenged us to come up with a list of great names of 90s goalies.
Yep.
And I just feel like, why don't we just go in reverse of last episode?
Sure.
Because I don't need you to roll the dice this time.
Okay.
I feel like, and I will go third. Mike, you're second again.
Okay.
And Matt, you get to go first. How many did we decide we want to choose?
I think it was
4?
Yeah.
Sounds great. Okay. We should probably say the name and just justify why we like the name, I
Yeah, of
guess.
course.
okay.
Okay.
And again, to stress, these are not like
Great
the best goalies
no,
of the 90s.
No, great
They're
names.
only here for their name.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will go first, and I will take Pete Peters
Oh, yes.
from Philadelphia. You know, you got to love those names, like guitarist Steve Stevens, and who played with Billy Idol.
Yeah.
Like Pete Peters. You can't beat that name. So that's my first great goalie of the 90s name.
And if you go way back in the podcast, early, maybe first episode, second episodes, I screwed up a draft with Pete Peters. That's
certainly
all I'm going to
did.
give you as an Easter egg for the fans out there. They'll know
That's
why.
right.
I
Look
screwed
it
up
up.
a draft. It's a legendary screw up. Legendary
And it
screw
was
up.
early
Next
on.
up, the legendary
It was
screw ups.
gold. Okay, so it's me now?
Yep.
All right, I am going to take legendary, well, not quite legendary, but fantastic Winnipeg Jets, Edmonton Oilers goalie, Pokey Reddick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why he's called Pokey. I'm not sure I want to know,
Yes.
but I love the name.
His real name is Eldon,
Yes.
Eldon
but no
Wainwright.
one would know
But no
that.
one would call him that.
No
He was-
chance.
In this draft, he's Pokey.
Here's one that I like a lot because this could be a guy that works at your local garage. Ron Tugnut.
Yeah.
I feel like Ron Tugnut has always been one of my favorite all-time hockey names, and why not? Because he's a 90s goalie. I'm going to take Ron Tugnut.
Fair enough.
All right. Just because it was the 90s and because it got such great nicknames out of it, Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Because Jim Carrey was huge in the 90s. The Mask was one of his nicknames. We had Neck Detective. All
Yeah.
great. Jim
And
Carrey.
he embraced it because his mask had the mask.
That's right,
Jim
yeah.
Carrey, the mask
Yeah.
on it.
You know, it's interesting. I'm looking up some of their nicknames too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, so
Yeah.
Tugnut was Nuts.
Yeah.
Well, he was also, wasn't he Tugger?
Where do
as
they come
well?
up with
But,
it?
Yeah.
Tugnut is so
Yeah.
good, but nuts. That's great. Great.
Jim Carrey also won a Vezina Trophy.
He won
I believe,
in
right?
95, 96.
That's
He won a
right, yeah.
Vezina.
There you
So,
go.
The Bruins.
Pretty good.
Correct? Bruins? Correct? Bruins?
Frank, who did Jim Carrey won his Vezina with?
I'm checking that.
Don't
right
think it was the.
Okay.
It was a Washington one.
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, my second pick is a French Canadian goalie
now.
Yeah.
Capitals.
that you may well remember
yeah.
from the '90s by the name of Guy Herbert.
Oh.
He who
You remember
Herbert.
when he played for Anaheim, they would call him Guy Herbert, even though his name was Guy Hebert. So I'm taking, now to be very clear, my pick is Guy Herbert.
Guy
Okay,
Herbert.
Not
that's
Guy
Very
Hebert.
clear.
I like
Someone
that.
can draft Guy Hebert if they want, but I'm taking Guy Herbert.
Guy Herbert. All right.
It's always great.
So we'll slam the door on that one.
This guy always made me think of, this could be someone, this guy always made me think of like the name of like a lady my mom would have worked with, like down at the
Okay.
hospital.
Okay.
You know, I was talking to Kay Whitmore the other day.
Nice.
For whatever reason, that always struck me as just a friendly lady down the block's name. Kay Whitmore. That's one of my favorite 90s girls.
Kay, if you do want to come on the show, the
You are a
goalie
friend-
or the friend of Sandy's
Thank you.
mother.
And Kay, if you want to come on and you won't talk to Sandy, we understand. Like you can just talk to
Kay.
Matt and
We love you.
I. Yeah.
But I feel like the Kay and Sandy story, a bit of a gossip.
Bit of a, oh, yes.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely. That's why my mom would sit there.
as your mom would say, a busybody.
A busybody, yeah, for sure. And I'm sure Kay sat at that nurse's station just dishing the gossip about Georgetown, Ontario.
Sure.
Okay, I'll go next. This guy only played 14 games for the Kings, but I loved his name, Rick Nickel.
Yeah,
Remember Rick
Nichols is a good
Nickel?
one.
Yeah.
Rick
That's a
Nickel.
I
Great
don't
one.
remember him, but
It's a great
it's
name.
a great name. I have an even more obscure one. He played, now this is really going deep.
Okay.
He played 2 games in 1999 for the Atlanta Thrashers, and his name is Scott Fankhauser.
Oh, that's a good one.
Now, isn't that a character on Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Also,
that's
yes.
Funkhauser, but yeah.
Funkhauser, yes.
My God, Fankhauser.
Scott Fankhauser,
Fankauser.
That's pretty damn good.
a legend in his
Nice.
family.
Now, this is round 3, I believe.
This is 3.
this is round
You're
3.
finishing 3.
We
Yeah.
have 4
I
total.
gotta
One
look
more
up his
coming.
nickname.
So I got to take one that I really, I mean, I'm trying to think like stirring up, like I read the name and it brings back memories. And one of the guys I hadn't thought of a while, I thought of that, but I don't know. It's kind of hard to beat Darcy Wakalak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In my mind,
that was a
Darcy
good one.
Wakalak
Wakalak.
brought back some memories from the 90s. So I'll go Darcy Wakalak as a great goalie name.
Man,
Doozies, eh?
these are good.
Okay, so this is my last pick.
No, you still got 2, I think. don't you?
No, we're only doing 4.
Oh, you got
Oh,
4.
you want to, we could do 5.
No, 4's good.
Okay, I will go with.
Let's see, you got 5 in the bank. You got 5 in
I
the
got,
bank,
I got 5.
No, I don't.
4 then it is.
Okay.
I'm going as deep as I can go here.
Okay, let's go with. You got to love Darren Pupa.
Yeah, Darren
Going with Darren Pupa.
Great name. Yep.
Great name.
There we go. And
He's an all-star.
he is an all-star, and it's
was
an
an
all-star
all-star.
name is the more important factor.
I feel like, Sandy, you remember a few years ago I did that play called The Front Page.
Yes.
Set in Chicago.
Yeah.
A lot of great characters in
Yeah.
that. This guy feels like he sounds like a character from
Yeah.
from an old 40s like cop movie. Pat Jablonski.
See, I feel like that's also a coworker of Sandy's mom.
Pat
Yeah.
Jablonski. Yeah, you know what? That's right. That could
He
be.
could be both. Jablonski, get in here.
Oh, that's true. That sounds good that way.
You know.
This is a final pick.
Yeah.
This is a tough
Yeah.
one because there's a bunch of names I really
I
like.
know.
And I
It's
want to
very
know. I feel like it could go more obvious or more like fuck, man. All right, the one I'm gonna settle on is because as soon as I saw this, I was like, oh man, I haven't thought of that guy in a long time. Rick Tabaracci.
Yeah, Tabby.
Pretty great.
Rick Tabaracci, I'm going to go with. I know there's a bunch we probably missed.
There
and
are.
I feel
I know. I want to get to them, but I mean, maybe we should leave it for the
leave it for the
leave
judge
some for-
to get on us a little bit about who you might have missed.
That's right.
I think that's totally fair. I can't believe no one picked Sean Burke. I was like trying to think of like, then there's the most boring names. It was like, that's the opposite is the most boring
Yes.
names.
Well, Mike, when you were talking about your theater days, I thought you might be going after Boston and Edmonton goalie Norm Foster. For those of you who follow Canadian theater,
I also think it's amazing that there was a goalie in the NHL for a long time named Byron Defoe.
Yeah. Really
Sounds like a poet from the
definitely does.
what about
Or an actor.
Yeah.
what about Paxton Schaefer?
Paxton, yeah. These are all poetic names.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah. Well, let's see what our judge thinks. I mean, I'm not even sure what his angle is, but you know, we were talking about like just when you look at old hockey cards, they just stir up names.
Yeah, I
Does
don't
he want
know.
a fancy name, or is it just more like, hey, when I said that name, I can't believe I thought of that guy for a long time. Let's find out what he thinks. Let's
do
see
it.
what his criteria is. Let's
we
get
have
judged.
no idea.
We have
what's
no
gonna
idea.
happen.
We have no idea. Let's find out. All right. He was the Dan on Jay and Dan. Now he's the Dan on Boomsies, a weekly podcast wherever you find your podcast. We're so excited to have him here. There it is, Boomsies with Dan O'Toole. Welcome to This Day in Sports. Dan O'Toole. Dan, thanks for joining us.
Guys, thanks so much for having me on to talk sports, to hang out. I wish we recorded what we were talking about before this even started because you've got potential in everything that's happened so far.
Well, we often ask potential judges, what's the challenge you want? What's the draft you want to do? And you chose best names of 90s goalies, not the best goalies, but what is the best names from those 90s goalies? And I'll tell you, we had all sorts of parameters or choices of how we selected these people, but that was the core of it. We were also saying earlier that sometimes you just want to like open up a pack of old cards and go through them, and just seeing some of those names brings back memories. Is that sort of the path you were on when you were considering this?
The reason I came up with this is because it's one of those topics where if you've got friends like I have, you could talk about goalies from the 80s and 90s for 5 hours without a break, without having to look on Google, anything.
Yeah.
And the way I became in love with all goalies in the NHL was I was a goalie myself, didn't have the stature, made it to Bantam, retired with a church league championship, and then I went out on top. Yeah. But leading up to that, my friend Rob and I, we'd play road hockey, and we'd alternate who was playing out, who was playing goalie. And the way we went through the goalies was cut out the stats section in the Peterborough Examiner that was once a week, where you got all the NHL stats. So you'd have all the goalies there. So we'd go by them one by one and have a shootout with each goalie. And that's why I fell in love with all the names, wanting to know more. You could never look up any of these names. There was no internet. So when you saw like a Stéphane Fissé, you're like, oh my God, this is a mystery. I've never seen him play. He must be amazing. All these names would always conjure up all these amazing images, and then we would try bring it to life playing road hockey. So that's why I fell in love with all the 90s names and not knowing anything about them aside from their name and their stats.
Yeah. It is a great reaction when you're talking with a bunch of sports fans and you just say a name that someone hasn't heard in like a decade or two, and they're just like, oh my God, that guy. I can't believe that just brings back a ton of memories of and they don't even have, like you say, they don't even have to be good. They just have to be good names.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, that's incredible.
Yep.
Go ahead, Mike.
I saw a female stand-up comic say once that men can just sit around for hours talking about old sports guys and like be the happiest they've ever been in their whole lives. And I laughed out loud. So I'm like, that's exactly correct. Like beer and that's all. Like we could go for hours.
When we were drafting, we had talked about how when we were kids, we'd go and be like, who's the goalie you're going to be? You know, like, oh, I'm going to be Grant Fuhr or something. But I love that you had an actual list. Like you'd cut out a list of these, so you could go through. That's incredible.
And so you can talk about it with friends and stuff and have these great reactions. But then I was lucky enough to have friends to play in the NHL, and I called one just before I came on here, and I went through this list, and I'm like, "Hey, give me what your thoughts." And he's like, "I'm not the guy to ask about this," because they don't have the same core memories because it was their job.
Yeah.
So they aren't analyzing. Oh man, I'm playing Dennis or Felix Potvin. Like, he didn't have the same je ne sais quoi as us watching from afar.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, hey, listen, when you worked at Zellers, I have these 7 people you worked with. Let's go through the memories of those guys. That was my job. I don't care about the Zellers people.
Oh no. I think the opposite.
Oh,
If
yeah?
you worked at those 7 people at Zellers, you have definite thoughts on them. Definite.
Okay, future draft.
And wait, I digress. Are they trying to bring Zellers back? I heard there's Zellers pop-up shops going around.
Yeah, at the Bay.
Yeah.
Because it's such a high demand.
And how's that going?
I don't know. I don't ask. I just keep moving.
If you need to own a stuffed Zeddy, you can get one. Like, you can get that bear. You can get Zeddy the bear if you need it. If it's out there if you need it. And there seems to be quite a lot of stock.
Is Club Zed back though? It's nothing without the Club Zed.
I've only seen the T-shirt that says Club Zed. I don't think actual Club Zed.
If we're going into the weeds on mascots, I have actually had conversations with the powers that be at Giant Tiger. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this brand, but it's in small towns. It was my dream to always go to one, despite the fact I was driving by one. I went last summer. It's now my favorite store on earth.
Yeah.
In the lead up to this, I asked people at Giant Tiger, why don't you have your tiger in a stuffy like mascot form?
Yeah.
And somehow I got through to their director of marketing or something, and he sent me when they tried it. And it's the stuff of nightmares. So they're like, yeah, it didn't go well, so we haven't tried again. So whatever that Giant Tiger mascot, the guy with, he's like very happy and his tongue's wagging, I think they need to try it again.
Yeah.
This is
amazing. And he would beat the crap out of Zeddy.
Zeddy doesn't want to fight anybody. Zeddy's a lover, not a fighter.
That's right.
If there's one thing we know about Zeddy. This is okay. Let's jump into the draft. So Dan, we drafted these 3 lineups of best goalie names of the 90s. There's 4 each. I'm going to review team 1, and then we'll just jump in and see your thoughts on these 4. Team 1 was Pete Peters, Darren Pupa, Jim Carey, and Rick Nickel. Any of these? Do you remember? Probably remember most, if not all. I know Rick Nickel's a little more vague, but what are your thoughts?
Can I go goalie by goalie?
You sure can.
I knew we'd have a Pete Peters, the classic iconic goalie name.
Yeah,
Darren Pupa, we're like, this is low hanging fruit here. I knew we'd have one of those. I'll accept it though. Jim Carey, the interesting thing I remember about him is, so he stood on his head for a couple of years, and then I remember one of his coaches saying he simply forgot how to stop the puck. Do you guys remember? He was letting everything in, and then he got sent to the minors and was never called up again. So it was kind of a tragic story. And Rick Nickel, never heard of this guy. Who's Rick Nickel?
He played for the Kings for 14 games in 92, 93, 93, 94. But
okay, so I guess we know who list team number 1 is.
Yeah, there you go. Already been revealed.
That giveaway, yeah.
Team 2, Pokey Reddick, Guy Hebert, or Guy Herbert, as they called him in the town he played in. Scott Fankhauser and Pat Jablonski.
Pokey Reddick, iconic. He's up there with Pete Peters. I believe that's top 5 goalie names of all times. And Pokey Reddick. So I mentioned how we always cut out the goalie names. There's a stretch, if you look at Winnipeg Jets history, where every single season they had at least 6 goalies play for them at some point. So they were always my favorite team, I'd see like 1 Winnipeg Jets game a year. But when we got to the Winnipeg Jet stats, we had like 6 goalies to go through, and we thought it was so awesome. Yeah. Little did we know, if you've got 6 goalies playing for your team, things are not going well. Guy Bear, a classic name. I don't know why they went with Herbert, because Hebert, it also reminds me of Saint Hubert chicken, which is far superior to Swiss Chalet. Let's be honest. Scott Fankhauser, can we get who's is this? Did you selected because it's kind of like Funkhauser?
I just think anybody named Fankhauser who made anything of themselves deserves recognition. He played exactly, he won 2 games for the Atlanta Thrashers during the 99-2000 season. So he was just hanging on to an NHL career, but anybody named Fankhauser, I don't know, it just elicits a lot of images. So he made my picks.
My favorite thing about the Thrashers franchise are their blue jerseys that had, what was it, Thrashers down the arms?
Yeah.
Those are low key one of the best jerseys in the history of the NHL.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Nice yeah. Nice pick on that.
Didn't help.
And Pat Jablonski, I remember the name, don't know his body of work.
He just sounds like I just liked it because it sounded like the cop, like the sort of the sergeant of the police.
I think I have that card.
Yeah, yelling at him like, Jablonski, get in here.
Yeah, okay, I like this. I like it. You had a
There's
reason
a context
for
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
It's sort of like I'm thinking about, a typical cop thing is like, Jablonski, I'm going to need your badge and your gun.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let him down. When they let him go from the Blues, they had said, Jablonski, I need your badge and your blocker.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, come on, coach.
Get out of here.
Jablonski, no, we can't handle your style of goaltending anymore. We need your pads and your blocker.
He was definitely in, what's the, is it The Other Guys?
Yeah, that's right. The Will Ferrell one. Yeah, that's right.
One of the greatest movies in the last 20 years.
It is it's a laugh out loud.
Like Michael Keaton in that? Come on.
Mm-hmm.
It's spectacular.
With all the TLC references.
Yeah.
Just how the Sharks are gonna kill the Lions or whatever, that little Will Ferrell run, incredible.
Oh yeah.
Well, this is going to lead to team 3. It's obviously my team now. We've talked about Ron Tugnutt, Rick Tabaracci, Darcy Wakaluk, and Kay Whitmore is our 4.
Okay, Sandy, I don't know if you know, my hometown is Peterborough, Ontario. And if you selected this team specifically with 2 former Peterborough Petes in which I watched play in person in junior.
And who's that? Which 2?
Ron Tugnutt and Kay Whitmore.
Perfect.
Wow.
Like, you can't Ron Tugnutt, he has that one, he still holds the record for most saves in a single game, right? With like 76. Oh, sorry, my balloons went off.
It's Ron Tugnutt's birthday today.
Right. That happens. So it doesn't matter if I'm talking to my mom or something. If Ron Tugnutt's name comes up, balloons just come out of the air.
Fantastic.
And I got to, because Ron Tugnutt was billeting a couple houses down from a buddy of mine. We were out playing road hockey once, and Ron Tugnutt came over and played with us in road hockey.
Wow.
Pretty cool moment.
Cool. Yeah.
Rick Tabaracci, I believe he was also a Winnipeg Jet at one point, right?
Matt would know.
I don't know. I'm gonna look that up.
That's a question for Hockey DB, my go-to source for all these questions.
Right. I know we had Shovel Day, but we don't know if we had in Winnipeg. But I don't know if we had.
Remember, they had 5 or 6 goalies at a time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, look at that in 90-91 and 91-92.
Boomsies!
Great call. Boomsies.
Darcy Wakaluk. I remember the name. Was he a Lightning member? A member of the Lightning?
Matt, you got that while you were there?
Let me look it up. Okay, Wakaluk.
I said
that's a great name. That sounds like if the Muppets named a goalie, it would be Darcy Wakaluk.
So Buffalo, Minnesota for a couple of years, Dallas for 3, and then ended in Phoenix in 96.
Okay, I was way off.
Darcy Wakaluk. We said
and
that.
Kay Whitmore. He actually works for the NHL still.
Yeah.
He's still in the game.
We said that. Who was the second Peterborough Pete? Sorry, you had Tugnut and who's the other one?
Tugnut and Whitmore.
Whitmore was the other Peterborough Pete, yeah.
Now, before I tell you who won, can I tell you the goalies that you guys missed?
Yes.
Please. Yeah,
Peter Ing. I always found a fascinating name. And I once went to a game at the Maple Leaf Gardens, and I watched them in warm-up, and never before, never since have I seen a goalie shoot the puck like Peter Ing did. Peter Ing was ringing it off crossbars and stuff when they were just doing their laps.
Yeah.
And then he ended up getting a shutout that game, and I believe it was the only shutout he ever got in the NHL, and I was there for it.
Amazing.
Stefan Beauregard,
Mm-hmm.
another Winnipeg Jet goalie that is just you say that name as a kid and you're like, oh my God, who's this guy? And the Daniel Bertume, also another Winnipeg Jet.
Yeah.
And finally, Troy Gamble.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Can you get a better handle than Troy Gamble?
Pretty good.
That is a good one. I was thinking about, was it Passmore? Was that another goalie I
Hey,
thought?
Passmore, yeah. Yeah, I had him on my list.
Sounds like something he would yell at a player. Passmore, but that's why I like that one.
I also almost picked Mikhail Stalenkov. That just sounded like a really good goalie name too, but he didn't make my cut, but that was a good one too.
I'll say this: Team 1 hit it out of the park with Pete Peters, then by Darren Pupa. I'm like, nah. It's almost, you got too much. It's too much of a good thing in one list. And you lost me. You lost me at Rick Nickel.
Oh, wow. It just rolls off the tongue. Rick Nickel.
Team
Rick
2,
Nickel.
you had a Winnipeg Jet on there, Pokey Reddick, in my top 5 of goalie names.
Yeah.
But then it fell apart the rest of the list.
Oh, man.
Like, if you had another like iconic name thrown in there that wasn't Fankhauser.
I picked Guy Hebert because he felt like he had two identities when he played.
He's okay, yeah.
and
He's
US.
okay.
Yeah.
But it
Guy
fell
Hebert-
apart with the last two.
Fair enough.
Well, Team 3 had 2 former Peterborough Petes. A record-setting former Peterborough Pete. A goalie that I once played road hockey with. But then you also had Darcy Wakaluk. But then when we voiced it out, I'm like, okay, this might be low-key better than I thought because of it could be from the Muppets. Rick Tabaracci also, but I'm on the fence of that being a great name or not. But Team 3, I think, wins this one, guys.
All right. Well,
Just because of my connection to it.
And
My connection and my connection only.
Yeah, your criteria is your own, man.
Yeah.
Really true. And then accidentally got Peterborough Pete's in there. I didn't know that they were both Pete's. One thing I said about Kay Whitmore, I only chose that name because when my mom was a nurse, she would come home from her shift in Georgetown, Ontario. She'd come home and she'd say, this is what so-and-so just said about a certain neighbor, like gossipy, like Matt kind of said. And that sounded like somebody that could be named Kay Whitmore that worked at the nurse's station. For whatever reason, that made me think of the nosy neighbor name or something you put in a sitcom.
If I'm not mistaken, they even played on the Pete's at the same time. Let me look this up. By the way, do you guys use Hockey DB?
Yes.
No.
Yeah, it's my go-to.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Do you get paid for that? Did you get paid for that?
Oh yeah, they were Whitmore and Tugnut. What a tandem for the Pete's.
That's great. And for two guys on the Pete's at the same time to play and then both make the NHL, that's a feat for sure.
And so this means Kay Whitmore and Chris King, who were on the Pete's together, they now work for the NHL together.
Yep. There we go. We almost had Chris on the show one time. Chris was almost a friend of the podcast. He was
he's now a mortal enemy of the podcast.
He was. How did he almost?
He was going to be on, and then I think he realized it was American Thanksgiving, even though he's not American, but he's obviously now integrated into America. So he said no, and then we got Dave Ellett. Dave Ellett's like, I'll do it. So Dave Ellett jumped in from his armchair in Minneapolis or Minnesota somewhere, and he was great. So it was a great backup for sure.
Do you know who was also on the Pete's with them?
Who's that?
Oh, I don't know. A guy named Ty Domi.
Whoa.
Oh,
man. Remember Ty? So going to Pete's games, everyone had like the same, like you do on a team. Everyone wears the same helmet. But Ty Domi had to wear an XL7 because the other helmets wouldn't fit his head.
Yeah, he's a bison head for sure.
Yeah.
He has a bison head.
They're always like, hey. And by the way, if you go back and feel an XL7 or put it on, I don't know how it was approved.
Yeah.
Like a helmet should not be able to change the shape of a helmet with the click of like two little clasps. Because that means the head is being crushed inside of it if you get hit.
Yeah.
But he also needed to quickly get it off for a fight. Quickly have to pop it off. But that's interesting because like Domi and King played together. Everywhere they went together. So they were Jets, Rangers, Leafs, they traveled together. So even from the Pete's days, that makes sense that Chris King and Ty Domi were just a package deal.
Mm-hmm.
The town of Peterborough must have been rocking in the late 80s then with all those guys there at the same time. My goodness.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
What
So
must have gotten into.
well, I lived out in the country, so I don't know what was going on in the big city, but I'm sure they ruled at Copperfields, which was the big bar at the time. One of those bars when you eventually go into it when you are a drinking age and you realize, oh shit, everyone's just here to fight.
Yeah. Everyone had that for sure in their town.
Oh, buddies would come in from the farm. No, Copperfield's about to get out. They just go out, show up outside. I feel like a fight.
Yeah, well, I mean, Matt and I went to the university in Manitoba, so we know that every time you went to the bar, someone was just going there to fight somebody every single time. And Mike grew up in St. Catharines, so it must have been fight before the bar, fight at the bar, fight after the bar.
Oh yeah.
Wait, so you guys went to University of Manitoba? Does that mean you saw the Watchmen a lot?
Well, he was at University of Winnipeg. I was at Manitoba. So that's the rivalry to start with. Yeah, that was the Watchmen era. That was them coming up at that time. Propaganda was with those guys, which then John K. Sampson formed the Weaker Then. So that's all that era.
The Watchmen, my favorite Canadian band, aside from the Tragically Hip, and I still, to this day, don't know how they didn't get massive. They were awesome.
Yeah. Matt and I were just talking about them. They were good.
Yeah. Well, they were big in Winnipeg, that's for sure.
Yeah.
McLaren Furnace Room. Was McLaren, that was their first album. Was that a hotel? Was that an apartment?
I don't know the answer to that, Matt.
And no, I'm not that deep on Mike.
I don't know. No, I have the album, but I don't know what it references. I didn't grow up in Winnipeg, so I don't know. No idea.
Is the bar that the lead singer owns in Toronto, is it motel or hotel, Matt?
Yes, I've been there many times.
Yeah, if you want to see a Jets game.
Yeah.
So Onright and I would go and we would fanboy out and just talk to him the whole time. And he became a good friend of ours. Well, not good friend, but we like text and stuff. So he's very low key and very humble because we're like, oh man, you guys are awesome. He's like, whatever, man. I don't care.
We should get him on the show too.
That's a great choice.
He's great.
He still sings one or two anthems at the Jets games every year.
Yeah, that's right.
Matt,
Best
you got
pipes in Canada.
He would be great. Talking to Winnipeg Jets for sure. But Dan,
so you guys could go even deeper on the 5 or 6 goalies they had every year.
This is our chance.
Full circle.
This is our perfect chance.
Tell us more about Pokey Reddick. Tell us more about Daniel Barthune.
Well, I can't believe right there you got Pokey and the Bandit. You didn't put the two together. I remember when they used to have the posters of Daniel Barthune and Pokey Reddick and Pokey and the Bandit. That was the campaign.
And they had Bob Essenza, the first, he was in net when my buddy Steve Webb scored his first NHL goal. He scored against Bob Essenza.
Webby.
Wow.
And a memorable one because I think Webby only scored like 9 his entire career.
Yeah, that makes sense. Remember,
and that was the guy I asked about the goalies. He's like, I didn't score a lot, right? Why are you asking me about goalies? I'm like, I don't know. Maybe you ran into one of them, something.
This has been perfect. Dan, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for challenging with this. Next time you think you come back, we'll do 80s goalies. I think that was the next bit of homework.
Oh, then we get really in the weeds. And now you guys know how to suck up to the judge because you know my criteria now.
Yeah. Basically, just pick ex Peterborough Pete's and you're in there.
Yeah. I won't do it. That's Sandy's game.
That's my game.
He didn't even, although he's claiming, I didn't know that.
I had no idea. Yeah. No. So now just one last thing. Carmichael's was the name of that bar?
Copperfields,
sorry.
Copperfields, yes.
Is it still there?
It is not. It's an insurance agency now.
There we go.
They only specialize in claims from people trying to sue the old Copperfields from the fights.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. Were you hurt in a fight at Copperfields?
Come see us.
Between the years of 1980 and 1992, come on down to our
local TV commercial.
Very specific.
Yes.
CHCH or whatever. Every weekend they advertise it. Dan, thanks so much. We'll have you back soon.
Guys, you're awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay, well, that was kind of wild.
We have some idea now.
So we have some idea now. Frank, when you were a kid, do you remember, like, just generally, like, let's say like when you were just a kid, doesn't matter if it's 90s, whatever it is. What was the first goalie you fell in love with? Who's the first? Mike Palmatier. Yeah.
He was crazy.
Matt, do you have a first goalie that you fell in love with? We got, it doesn't be 90s anymore, just generally.
Gosh. I think the first goalie I remember knowing about was Ed Stanowski.
Yeah, that's good. Mike, you got one?
Chico Resch.
Yeah, Chico Resch is a good one.
And Billy Smith. Was it
Yeah,
Billy Smith?
Yeah,
Billy Smith kind of
The hacker.
supplanted Chico Resch on the Islanders, but
Yeah. There's the ones that,
Sandy, same question. Did you say yours?
No. For me as a kid in Ontario in the 70s, Bunny LaRock. Because he came over from the Canadians, and I didn't even know anybody in his Canadians background. But Bunny LaRock was such a great name. That's a great name,
it's
too.
a great name.
Yeah.
Bunny LaRock was the Leafs goalie at the time. And Mike Liut, too, because they had that skinny mask at the bottom.
Yeah.
Bunny also had that same skinny mask at the bottom. Mike Liut had that weird mask. Yeah, those are the big ones. But they're always, I think, because when we were kids and you traded hockey cards, goalies were always more valuable. They had the team cards, you had the goalie cards. So if you had a goalie card, everybody wanted a goalie card. And you open up a pack, I remember in my neighborhood anyway, it's like, got a goalie. It was so exciting.
Yeah.
Who would you, as a kid and you're playing goalie in net, who would you, I'm this guy, I'm that, who would
Well, that's funny because like you talk about Chico Resch and those kind of styles, like even Reggie Lamlin, those guys who had those weird styles. And I was a tall kid and I was trying to get smaller because those small goalies had those really wild styles. Those first, like even the first butterfly goalies, like in the Tony Esposito era and that kind of stuff. Did you have one you haven't related?
I think in that era everybody wanted to be Grant Fuhr because the Oilers are winning and so
Ken Dryden was the big one.
Yeah,
that was you.
Everybody wanted to do the leaning on the stick thing.
He was not only just the Montreal Canadiens goalie, he was like Canada's goalie.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, there was something about him that made him rise above the team that he was playing for.
And it was that leaning on the stick.
Yeah,
it's like the classic. So when
famous portraits of it.
As soon as the ball, when you're playing street hockey, the ball go the other side. Every other goalie's like, got to lean on the stick like Ken Dryden. It's like, this makes no sense for you to do this. You don't have that long a break, man.
Everybody also wants to take some water.
Dump it in the
That's
water.
an iconic photo. It really is. You know, how many paintings have you seen of that too?
Mike,
Ontario Heritage Trust.
You never pretended to be anybody, did you?
Ever.
I'm Mike Scherer. I'm playing goalie. I don't want to be anybody.
I'm not anybody else. I'm me.
Yeah. And I love when you were kids and you'd all say like who you were going to be, like in any sport, baseball, basketball. Hey, today I'm going to be, I'm going to be Reggie Jackson. Yeah. So you're out there with all these kids baseball, and there was always the weird kid in the block. You're like, I'm going to be Reggie Jackson. And the other kid was like, I'm going to be Dave Steve. And the other kid's like, I'm going to be Magic Johnson. And you're like, it's not a baseball player. Don't care. No. And you're like, weird kid. That's the weird kid. Matt, were you the weird kid?
I don't think I was, but I don't know why two people couldn't be the same person. Or what does that mean?
No, anyway? It's more like you're all playing baseball players, and then someone decides to be a basketball player.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
there was always the weird kid who decided, Yeah,
well, you hate it when people wear different jerseys to a sporting event if it's not that jersey. Like you...
It's weird.
You don't like that.
Wearing a hockey jersey to a baseball game?
Yeah,
that's weird.
I don't... Hey, listen, I'll go further. If you're going to a game between the Red Sox and the Blue Jays, the guy who wears the Yankees jersey, you're like... What's going on?
I think same sport is okay.
Sports.
Same sport
doesn't make any sense.
Same sport okay?
No.
I think if you go to a game, you're wearing like a Jackie Robinson jersey or like a legendary player,
but you're not.
You're not. No, you're not here. Not in this scenario.
No.
All right.
Give us your opinions.
We're 4 hours into this podcast, but get on that Instagram. You're right, Matt. Give us your opinions in those comments. What do you think of all these
Sports
things?
8.
Yes, that's it. This has been fantastic. This Day in Sports. We'll see you another time. But for this episode, June 4th, I believe we're on.
I think so. It was when we started.
This was when we started. I'm Sandy Joe Bevins.
I'm Matt Gippen.
I'm Mike Scherer.
Over there.
I'm Frank.
There's Frank. We'll see you soon on This Day in Sports, and we see you soon live in Bob Cajun, we hope.